Hi everyone, this is Dr. Lin Fung from EduLink, and this is part of the Research Paper 1 course. So far in this course, you have learned about the different parts of a research paper, conducted a study to investigate the relationship between foreign language enjoyment and foreign language anxiety and other variables. You have analyzed your data, and now it's time to write your paper. I'm going to analyze a short research paper with you and share with you some interesting features that will be helpful for your research paper. As you can see, this is an article that I wrote with other colleagues. The title of the article is Learner Engagement and Subjective Responses to Tasks in an EFL Context. The first part of the paper is the introduction. So first, I introduce the concept of engagement and its importance in different contexts here. When you introduce your topic, you can start with something broad and then you narrow the topic down. So here in the green section here, I introduce how engagement has been conceptualized and measured. When the concept is new, it is really important to also define and talk about how the concept is measured. And moving on to the second paragraph, you can see that I cite an important source here. And I do this by saying a recent article by Film and Duchesne 2016. So I want to point out that you're going to use APA citation style, and APA stands for American Psychology Association, and you can search for resources on the internet also. The basic principle or the basic rule of this style is that when you cite sources, you need to use the author's last name and the year. So you can see that these are the two last names from the authors of this paper and the year of publication. And here I first cite an important source, and then I go on to give a definition from these authors. Now note that when you use a direct quotation, you need to indicate the page number where you find the definition also. Moving on to the next paragraph, you can see that I review some important research related to measuring engagement. So these authors have used different methods to measure engagement in their study. And again, these are citations, and you can see that the last names and the year of publication is used here. Moving on, this is also another paragraph to review factors affecting engagement and a summary of findings from previous research. So you can see that this is part of a literature review. And because the paper is short, I introduce the topic and I review some existing knowledge and previous research related to the topic in the introduction. Finally, at the end of the introduction, I introduce the research questions, and you should do the same for your paper. Okay, so in the method section, I have talked about this a lot. You need to introduce the participants. You need to introduce the tasks or the materials that you use to collect data. And especially you need to introduce the instrument. So here I introduce the participants, the materials to generate data, or the procedure, also the instrument to collect more data. And in the next paragraph, I explain how we coded data, right? So if you need to code your data, you need to also explain that. And then in this paragraph, I explain data analysis, how the average scores were calculated, how the scores were entered into a data analysis software application, and then what kind of statistics were generated. in your study, you're going to have to talk about the averages or the mean scores. And the mean score is actually part of descriptive statistics. Now, next, after you analyze your data, then you should have the results, and the results should answer your research question. So you can see that I have finding number 1 here, and I start with this sentence: data analysis showed that learners generated statistically more terms, blah, blah, blah. So this is finding number 1. And then I have a table to show specific statistics here. And then in the next paragraph, I explain the finding a little bit more. So usually when you report your finding, you can state what you found first, and then you show more statistics, and then you comment on your statistics. And in the next paragraph, I have finding number 2 to answer the question regarding subjective responses. And again, I kind of summarize the finding here, and then I show a table to have more data or to show specific statistics, and then I comment on it a little bit more. Now, the discussions and the conclusion can also go together. In the discussion section, you need to compare your findings with previous research. So this is what I do for this paper as well. And I say a finding consistent with Lambert et al. 2017. And this is a sentence structure that you can use. And I continue to compare my findings with previous knowledge and research. I also interpret the findings to really explain what they mean specifically. So this is what you do in the discussion. You compare your findings with previous research, and you also explain or interpret the findings a little bit further. And then finally, I have 1 paragraph to conclude the whole paper. So you should summarize the findings here and the contribution of the study to existing knowledge. Okay, so let's put everything together. Again, in your research paper, you should have the introduction, and the introduction can introduce the topic and review existing knowledge and research. The second part is the method section. You need to introduce your participants, your research instruments, your data, and your data analysis. In the results section, of course, you should report the findings, but as you report your findings, you can first kind of summarize the main finding and then show more data or more statistics to illustrate the finding, and make sure to comment on your statistics. In the discussions and conclusion, you compare your findings with existing knowledge and literature. You can bring back the citations that you have in the introduction, and then you should have 1 paragraph to summarize your findings and make the final comment about your study. So I hope that is clear and it makes sense, and good luck on your paper.